I'm Jen.
And I'm Jen.
And I'm Caroline.
And this is Talk Dogs with Us.
Whew. Sometimes it takes us a couple times because we'll forget.
Not today.
Today's episode is Helping Hearts, a discussion about veterinary social work with our friend Caroline Cox, MSW, LSW.
Hell yeah. This is for vet staff, trainers, groomers, anyone interested in
Shelter
veterinary
workers.
social work, shelter workers,
Animal care workers.
Owners.
and social workers.
Yeah.
Broadening our horizons.
So thinking about how to think about it, all of these animal jobs are care work. You are caring for someone's beloved pet, or in the case of a shelter, a pet that needs a home. You are caring for an animal, and that care work costs a lot. Veterinary social work is the answer to how you can help pay some of that cost,
The emotional cost.
the emotional cost.
Probably won't pay your bills, but
I don't think so.
No.
we'll talk about that though.
Yes. We will.
So what is veterinary social work?
So veterinary social work, I won't do the exact definition, but I have it pulled up just for
That's
reference,
fair.
just in case. But it essentially arose from the human needs that are inherently part of animal care work. So whether that's end-of-life discussions, emotions that come along with illness or emergency, compassion fatigue, and then part of it that I feel like doesn't get talked about a lot, but is definitely a factor in it, is the link between human and animal violence. So that was something that I think social workers sort of realized was, like a thing. And so thankfully that's more rare, but kind of just that's a factor that goes into veterinary social work of thinking about like people that hurt people. Are they more likely to hurt animals?
Yeah.
Things like that. So not necessarily like prevalent to my job, but veterinary social workers exist in shelters a lot as well. So sometimes like a vet social worker at a shelter, for example, might be thinking about prevention in the community maybe, and how can like if we reduce human violence, can we reduce like violence towards animals?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So it's like a service not just for owners, but also for staff.
Yes.
The people,
Absolutely.
anyone caring for an animal, basically, in any capacity.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
How does someone become a veterinary social worker?
So it's still a pretty niche field,
Yeah.
but it is growing, I would say, because there originally was just one like postmasters in social work certificate program at the University of Tennessee. And they also have a veterinary school at the University of Tennessee. So there was someone founded it there, and that was the first like postmasters program. And then it has recently expanded to 2 other universities as well. But I think a lot of social workers who end up in veterinary social work, like me, are just sort of people who always were interested in both like animals and humans.
Yeah, both realms.
Yeah, and that kind of like found their niche into veterinary social work. And, some other people that are social workers that are also interested in like the human-animal bond will end up going into like more of an animal-assisted therapy type of route, which is also very amazing, but just like not what I was particularly interested in. I kind of wanted bigger picture and less like individual work with clients and like utilizing therapy animals. But yeah, I would say it's, usually social workers end up in a vet social work position via like having a passion for both animals and people and like kind of meeting in that intersection.
Yeah.
How did you know that's what you wanted to do?
I forget honestly where I first discovered it, but I, found social work in in undergrad after not really being sure what I wanted to do. I started by doing like biology and being really bad at it. Because
Same.
yeah, I kind of wanted to be like maybe be a veterinarian. I knew I loved animals. And then I was like, well, maybe I'll do nursing because I also like people, and was really bad at biology. And then someone kind of overheard me talking about that and was like, hey, do you know that there's a school of social work, here, and you should maybe check it out? Because if you want to work with people but you don't really know what you want to do, like that's a good route. And I still knew I was going to incorporate animals somehow, but like social work was the first time I was like interested in school.
Yeah.
Felt like I was actually learning about things that mattered. And as well as like my intro to social work class, our professor was very much like, you can do so many different things with this degree. So if you don't really know what you want to do, like
It's
this
okay.
is good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then when I went to get my master's, there was one program that focused on like animal interactions, essentially, which was at the University of Denver, where they had what's called an animal assisted social work like certificate, basically.
Okay.
So I picked that school like for that. And again, most people in my program at that school did want to do more therapy with animals assisting them. So like whether it's equine therapy or like utilizing a therapy dog, and things like that. So a lot of what my classes there ended up focusing on was actually like, how can we ensure the welfare of animals that are like assisting in therapy work?
Okay.
Which was super interesting.
Yeah.
As well as just like supporting people in the human animal bond and, supporting people through loss, things like that.
Yeah. So you started as a social worker in general and then kind of niched down based on your interests.
Yeah. And even like at the University of Denver, I like already knew about vet social work somehow. I forget again, like how I knew about it, but I would say that in my class, like, oh, that's my eventual goal. And even there, I was like more niche than the niche because people were like, oh, I've never heard of that.
Yeah.
But that sounds cool. But yeah, some of my classmates from that program, like I know two of them off the top of my head, ended up being social workers in shelters.
Okay.
Which like those fall under the realm of like veterinary social workers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can be a social worker and not necessarily go through the veterinary social worker channels because those are very, very niche.
Yeah.
And you can kind of dabble into it and see what direction you want to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I would also say that, since veterinary social work is so niche, it also like looks very different in every setting.
Yeah, every capacity.
Yeah, every hospital, because sometimes a hospital will, want to hire a social worker, but they don't even exactly know what for.
Yeah.
Or like
they're like, we need help. We don't know what help we need.
Exactly.
We just know we need help.
Yes. People are sad. Someone help us. But yeah, so that's the other, I guess, sort of complicating factor of it is that it sort of looks different everywhere, but that's kind of the nature of social work, like in general.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's a very diverse field,
Mm-hmm.
which veterinary technician is also a very diverse field, more than you would realize, because there's social work, there's vet hospitals, there's pharmacists, there's pharmacology, there's the drug companies, there's research. So it's interesting to see all the different facets of it.
Yeah.
How do you think that working in hospital, you've helped both the staff and the clients so far?
Yeah. I would say it is my first social work job where no one's been angry at me, to be quite frank.
Yeah.
I mean, I have worked in some other settings, to be fair, where like people haven't had a choice but to work with me. And I've been like very, very, very aware of that. And like, I understand, like you don't have to welcome me with open arms or something if I'm, I've worked in child welfare. So like child protective services.
Yeah, which is hard.
Yeah. And like, I was very aware of my position as like someone that people are not gonna like, and why would they? But it is just a very interesting switch, because the only kind of like thing I ever get is maybe someone being like, I'm okay, I don't need to talk right now.
Yeah.
But there's not anyone who's
Like you're not receiving the anger of someone who's viewing you as part of the system.
right.
Yeah.
And I would say also any sort of angry client that I've ever been, I guess, like brought in to help with, let's say, I've found that once I get there, they're sort of less escalated. And I think that's just the nature of like, sometimes people need a fresh face. So I think as far as the staff, I mean, it feels weird for me, I guess, to speak for other people, like how I've been helpful to people. But I think to literally just have a person to kind of like offload a client on, which I'm happy to do that. Like, I think sometimes people feel bad about, I guess, utilizing me in that way, but that sort of is what I'm there for. Like, for lack of a better word, to just be a fresh person that can just kind of listen and also has unlimited time in a way to do so.
Yeah, like that, your capacity is to support.
Yeah, and I have found that, you know, often, especially like if I'm sitting in the ER, you know, techs and veterinarians just don't have the time to like sit with
to do
client.
the emotional part of it.
Yeah, and it's stressful to be trying to listen to a conversation, trying to validate someone while being like, I have 20 other things.
I
I
have to go save your pet, and you're the next door neighbor's pet too.
Exactly.
So I really got to get out of here. I don't have time to listen to you cry. I want to.
Yeah.
And I'm also crying on the inside, but I don't have time.
Yep.
So for you to then be there to fill in is probably super, super helpful.
And I know what that like feels like too, because I've been in a position as a social worker where I've had just way too high of a caseload, let's say. And, you know, like someone's talking to me and I literally know that I am not present enough because I have the next thing I have to do in my mind. So I hope that that's been helpful for people. I think it has. And then as well as for clients, because a lot of times I'm talking to a client and they say, I don't want to take up too much of your time. And I can respond and say, this is literally my job.
Yeah.
Like I'm supposed to sit in here
Yeah.
and talk with you.
And be your support system.
Yeah.
Yeah. It really takes a lot of people who are into animals, like trainers and vet techs and shelter workers, they get into it for the animals and they're not people. And so we don't always have the skills to manage people in that way. I had to like 10 years in vet med before I had the skills to deal with a client that was like suicidal because we were euthanizing their pet.
Yep.
And so to have someone there that is trained and skilled in that and I can just let that part go, someone else has it, I feel like is just there's no replacement for it.
Yeah. And it's interesting you say that too about the people thing. Because I've thought about that. And I was curious. I thought in my mind it has to have gotten better maybe in like vet school at least in like 2025. So I asked, you know, like the newest group of veterinary interns who was coming in, like, how are you guys prepared to deal with, I think human suffering was the word I used in vet school. Has it gotten better? And I remember one of the interns was like, I don't even think anyone's ever said that word to me, like said human suffering to me. And I was like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
It hasn't gotten better. But, you know, I think that it is a really difficult thing to deal with. And especially if you're not prepared to deal with it.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just, it doesn't come innately. And it's really stressful, even if you are not a people person, maybe more so stressful because you're like, I really feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, because you don't want to mess up. You don't want to make anyone more angry or more sad or whatever. Yeah.
Can you walk us through a little bit of what your day-to-day looks like?
Yeah.
And like the different like specific things that you do to support people? Like
Sure.
obviously you're there in the ER, you're there in those moments of crisis, but you do groups and stuff.
Yeah. I would say it's funny. I was talking to my own therapist about this the other day because I was saying sometimes at work I feel like it's all or nothing. Like I either have a day that feels slower or there's 10,000 things happening at once. And I do think some of the nature of that is sometimes when someone pulls me in to talk with a client, then I think someone else remembers, oh, I can do that too, in a way that's good.
Yeah.
Like I want obviously people to pull me in, but sometimes I think that does happen because people will see me go in a room with a client who's upset and they're like, oh yeah, I forgot I could sort of do that.
Yeah.
And then it's like,
yeah, it kind of gives them, they can mirror you and
Mm-hmm.
get the confidence they need to learn the skills so that they're not just too stressed to even learn or think about the situation they're in.
Yeah. And I think sometimes too, it's just like anything. I feel like it takes, especially if you're a tech or veterinarian who's been doing it a long time, it's like you've been doing it without a social worker. So,
Yeah.
How do you use one, or why would you need one, or something like that? But I always tell people too, because I think people get a little awkward about the intro, sort of. They don't want to feel like the client is going to think, this person thinks I need help, or this person thinks,
like a stigma.
Yeah. So
Or like you're passing them along to someone else.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I will just kind of say like, hey, I can always go in and literally just say, hey, I work here. Usually veterinary hospitals don't have a social worker, so I'm just letting you know I'm here, and if you want to talk, I'm here.
Yeah.
So, but to the point of day to day, it can really depend on like what's happening in the hospital, that day. But I will say I definitely always have a few emails when I come into work that are clients that veterinarians or techs saw overnight that were particularly upset that they feel like they could use an extra check-in, and they just say, hey, this is kind of the situation that happened with this client. I'm thinking that they could use an extra check-in. So I'll sort of make a list of those people, and I typically don't call them the next day, especially if it was overnight, just because that's really soon.
Yeah. They're probably sleeping, resting.
Yes. So I will sort of make, notes of anyone like that, and maybe that day I'll have a list of people from a few days ago or something to chat with. But then mostly, besides like the calls that I have to those owners, and that's another thing that I think has been helpful for people, is for me to at least be able to check in with someone and then go back to that vet or that tech and say, hey, I spoke with them. And honestly, 9 times out of 10, the person, even if they're so upset and distraught, they're telling me like how grateful they were for the veterinarians and for the technicians. And so I feel like that's really nice to be able to relay back to people, because, this person's letting me know this was a client that was super upset. They had a really difficult situation. And then I'm able to go back to them and say, they were really upset, but they really appreciated being reached out to, and they really appreciated your care in that moment, because that person probably couldn't express that at the time either of the emergency. So I think that's been helpful.
Yeah. There's a meme that is like, sometimes I wake up at 3 a.m. thinking about your dog, and there's no extra charge for that. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that applies to owners too. Mm-hmm. So to be able to have someone come back and say, hey, I checked in with that owner, they're surviving and doing okay, is like some relief, because as the animal professional, we know both their perspective and ours. Mm-hmm. And so we're just holding that in our minds, like, oh, I hope Fluffy's owner is doing okay. I know that, the loss of Fluffy was like the last attachment they had to this family member. Mm-hmm. And like, do they have a support system? And so being able to have someone to check in, make sure they're supported, but then also hear the feedback directly, I think is life-changing, honestly. Yeah,
and even more bluntly, honestly, like you said, being in situations where unfortunately people do say things like, this is the only thing I have, or something even scarier, like, I don't want to be alive after this, something like that. For even if I wasn't like there in the moment, and there's certain situations where, like, unfortunately, if I'm not there, I've heard of people having to maybe like call an emergency service or something like that. Hopefully those situations are not as like often. However, if I'm able to, check in with someone like that, where someone's really worried, like, is this person okay? Like, are they literally going to answer the phone? I feel like that has made a big difference to people, because I know that feeling also as someone who is trained to work with people. Like, I have worked with someone who I was really worried about and did all the assessments and, felt confident in this decision to get them whatever level of help they needed. But I still sometimes think about them 2 or 3 days later. Yeah. Is that person okay? So, and, like, I am trained in that. So I can only imagine how it feels, to not have a lot of control and be worrying about that person. So I think that's been helpful, for people to just know at least this person is okay. They answered the phone.
Yeah.
Like, they're alive. And if they need more help, like there's someone they know they can talk to.
Yeah. There's a resource there to help them find even more help if needed.
Yeah. And then I think another part of day-to-day, which doesn't happen, as often, but does happen, is a situation where, there's a staff member who maybe was a part of a really difficult situation, whether it was an emergency that like didn't go the way that people, wanted.
That we hoped.
Yeah. Or just a really difficult case, or they just are feeling like really burnt out and need someone from outside the situation to talk to. Like, I've talked to staff members as well. And I think that aspect of being on the outside is super helpful because I have heard staff say, like, I'm really tired and I'm really stressed out, but everyone in the ER is doing the same thing as me. Or like, I feel bad talking about it to my fellow coworkers because they're also doing it.
Yeah, it gives them an outlet to vent that understands but doesn't add to the stress of it.
And I think they feel, I guess, bad sometimes feeling as upset as they do when like maybe someone next to them is, doing the same job but not as upset. But like, you never know also
what's going on internally.
Yeah, you don't know how well someone's carrying something.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think sort of just like that outside perspective, even if I don't have like a solution, which oftentimes I really honestly don't, to be able to at least have someone to talk to that's not like right next to them in it, I think is helpful.
Yeah. Not necessarily to fix it, but to get through the moment.
Yeah. So I think every day looks a little bit different, as well as like there's been clients sometimes that I've spent like literally 3 hours with, and that's like a good portion of my day, obviously, but it might be that person, it just really is having a hard time making a decision. Or I've had people just say, I don't want to be in this room alone.
Yeah.
And can you just sit here with me? Or
sometimes people just need someone to sit there.
Or I've sat in on euthanasias with people that don't want to be alone. So I think, it definitely looks very different every day. But that's also what I like about it.
Yeah. I think it's helpful that you sit on the floor in ER because then if someone is struggling in the moment, staff or client, you're so easily accessible.
Yeah. And I think too, sometimes I, for lack of a better word, will like eavesdrop and kind of be like, do you want me to check in on that person? I'm happy to. And people will be like, oh yeah, I didn't think of that.
Yeah.
That would be great.
Yeah. I think that's probably a good reminder, right? Because then they don't, again, feel that like they're being a burden asking you for help.
Right.
Like you're there to give help, that your whole job is help.
Yeah. You also run some support groups, right?
Yes. Yeah, I do 2 groups that are specific to behavior. So a behavior euthanasia support group, and then a like general behavior support group, I guess I would say, of clients who like actively are seeing the behavior department.
Yeah.
And then just a pet loss support group in general. I think one of the most interesting ones, honestly, has been the behavior support group because they need very little from me.
Yeah. They actually have everything they need and the support from each other.
Yeah.
They're just, we need to connect them.
Yes.
And I think it's cool that you've been creative with them and had like their little self-care night. I think that was so cool.
Yeah. I like always kind of, groups are just interesting because they're like, they are supposed to effectively run themselves. But, you know, when we learn about them in school, they're kind of in a perfect template that's like, you're a group over 10 weeks. At week 1, they should be doing this. But the nature of like these groups I'm holding is that anyone can come. It doesn't have to be the same group.
Right, they're not regulars.
Yeah. So I kind of always have something in my back pocket in case it's a really quiet group.
Yeah.
But
can you tell us about the self-care night?
Yeah. So there was a group a behavior group I did once where I was kind of introducing the idea to them of I'm trying to remember how I was wording it. Sort of like caregiver fatigue is, I think, what I was trying to talk to them about, and just saying that, you know, you need to give yourself some grace in how much work you're doing with your animal and things like that. So, but also I understand time is always the biggest
factor,
I guess, like currency sort of, with anything like self-care. So I was like, how can you combine, you know, an activity for yourself with like something that's also good for your dog, whether it's like some enrichment that you do that's like, okay, this is a timed thing for 30 minutes and I'm going to do this thing for 30 minutes while my dog is doing that. Because I sort of pitched it to them as, you guys are so good at routines with your dogs or cats or whatever.
Your pets.
Your pets. And you already have that time built in. Like, you already have it carved out for something with your animal. So you should really just take that time and do something, whatever it is you want to do for yourself, and think of those in the same kind of importance.
Yeah.
Is sort of the way I think we talked about it. But yeah, of kind of trying to just be like, kill two birds with one stone sort of thing. But yeah.
I think for me, even learning that the term caregiver fatigue existed was a relief, because at the time I was caring for an older dog with some cognitive decline, and learning that there was a word for the amount of care I was putting in and how draining it was a relief. So like, even not even knowing that, like, I'm not I guess in a way you are learning that you're not alone because other people have a name for it, but like, oh my God, there's a name for this feeling, that feels so validating.
Yeah.
So even like, I feel like that information, getting that information to people is so helpful.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And sometimes I'm like, oh, do people want words? Do they not? So it is helpful to hear that, like, from your perspective too. Like, there's pretty much every pet loss support group, we just kind of, I'll quickly talk about like disenfranchised grief, because I think that same thing has been helpful for people. Just sort of just like the concept of a grief that's not, it's like basically not publicly recognized. Or as to the extent of, you know, everyone knows that if you lost a child or a partner, like, that would be a huge loss, but sometimes people are not recognizing like the loss of your friend in the same way. Even. And then like, certainly with the loss of a pet, there are just people who just do not get it.
They don't connect with it.
Yeah, at all. And that makes it a lot harder, because like, not only are you grieving, but then you're feeling almost like weird for like how upset you are. And just because people aren't really giving it enough.
Yeah, you don't have that outside social support that says this is okay for you to be grieving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Especially
grief is already
because-
hard, and then to be, I don't want to say ostracized for it, but like not embraced
Yes.
is hard for people.
For sure.
Yeah, and feel like a burden because you're grieving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, you know, of course, like, you guys know this, but with behavior euthanasia, that's like a huge, honestly, the group has been I don't want to say not less helpful or successful, but I find it maybe sometimes that those clients benefit more from talking just one-on-one, because I think sometimes people do feel very ostracized by that grief, and that they maybe don't even want to talk about it with other people who have been through it, because they might feel like their situation was different or whatever. But they just, in general, I've heard so many people say, like, not only am I experiencing this, I feel like I can't talk about it because I don't know how to explain to people what happened. People don't get it. People are judging me, whatever.
Yeah.
So like that grief is so painful and so lonely, because people don't even feel like they have room to feel it. I feel like.
They feel like there's so much explaining to do before someone else can empathize with them. Yeah. Which is just too exhausting when you're in the middle of that grief.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And groups aren't something that have to be through a vet hospital or a shelter, right? Like, a social worker could do groups on their own just as a social worker for different animal people. And that can be helpful too, because communities are always in need of groups and community and support. Yeah.
Yeah. And I didn't mention this when we were originally talking about veterinary social workers too, but there definitely are some people I know that started off in a hospital as a vet social worker and moved to like, you know, like private practice work basically. and they will advertise like, I specialize in talking to animal care workers, or I specialize in pet loss and bereavement, things like that. And so, there definitely are like people who are doing this privately and like specialize in it, as well as like off the top of my head, I think it's Animal Assisted Therapy of Colorado. Like they do a group once a week that's like, it's labeled like animal care workers, like group.
Yeah.
And it's not like about grief. It's not specifically about loss. I think it's just literally a space for people who work in animal care to talk to one another and like, support one another.
To be supported.
Yeah.
Wow. So you want to talk top tips?
Top tips.
So,
Tip tops.
Tip tops. I think knowing how to find a veterinary social worker.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have some resources in the show notes about where to find it, where to find a little bit more information on it. But if you have anything that you want to contribute or shout out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I would say there's an organization called the International Association of Veterinary Social Work, which many people are like shocked that exists, but there are enough of us.
Yeah.
And there are, vet social workers in other countries. Canada, big one. They have a lot of vet social workers.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Do you know how many vet social workers exist?
Oh, I should know.
I wonder if there's more vet social workers than there are veterinary behaviorists.
That's
a
kind of
great
where I was.
question.
I bet it's evenish.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know off the tippy top of my head.
We'll include it in the show notes if we can get a number.
Yes.
If we can find a number, we'll put it in there.
Yeah.
Yes. The conference actually this year is in Canada. So.
Oh, nice.
Yes. A lot of
They're
Canadian
just
veterinary
ahead of
social
us,
workers.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay.
And interestingly, actually, I can just think of it off the top of my head of the Toronto Zoo, but there have been social workers who do a lot of work with zoos.
Oh.
Because animals there sometimes have lived there for years and years, and keepers have been taking care of them for years and years.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting kind of like pocket because, they're not in a shelter like hoping to get adopted. They're not owned by the zookeepers, but they're owned by the zoo. And, the same people have been taking care of the same animals for years. So when they pass away, it's
like taking care of someone else's pet
Yeah.
for all this time.
Yeah.
I
and
bet
when
that's devastating to lose an animal that you've cared for 15 years.
Yeah.
Or even to have a decision made that you don't agree with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And especially like, I'm sure you guys know, but I love the like cooperative care videos of like the giant zoo animals. And
So
like,
good.
those like relationships take so long to build.
Yeah,
and
they run real deep.
yeah, because those are like, wild animals that you're getting to like cooperate and live in a, not their natural setting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know how many there are off the top of my head, but yes, we can try to find out.
Yeah.
But I would say International Association of Veterinary Social Work is, like a good place to look for just like general information. And then as well as I would say a lot of the bigger like corporations, I guess you would call them, have veterinary social workers now.
Oh.
So like Blue Pearl has them, MedVet, but like sometimes you just don't know they're there. So I would say too, like for people listening, I guess if you're at an emergency hospital too, you can always just like ask if you want the support, of one as well. But yeah, I think that there are a lot of social workers, from what I understand, that are interested in going into this field. So hopefully it just becomes like there's more
grows
of us
and grows.
and they're easier to
If a social worker is interested in veterinary social work, where should they start?
Yeah, I would say University of Tennessee probably is like the best first place because they have like that original certification.
Yeah.
But all three schools that offer that certification, and it's not like you have to have that certification to like
To do it.
work.
Yeah.
But I would say if you're interested in just finding out more about it, University of Tennessee, and the same thing I mentioned, like the International Association of Veterinary Social Work. Yeah.
So a social worker who has been in the animal field can probably slide in kind of the same way that a vet tech can be on the job trained.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you're a social worker who maybe doesn't have as much animal experience and that's what you need the perspective on, definitely look into one of the schools, the veterinary social worker schools.
Yeah, I think so. Especially because, I don't know, I had that sort of like animal focused
background.
Background just from like my experiences in life and jobs and things, as well as like, there was that niche like at the grad school program that I did go to, even though it was, not specifically vet social work, but it was surrounding like the human animal bond and things like that. So I think I would say like, if you feel like you need more of that animal experience or more of like an education specifically about the human animal bond, like, those certifications are like a good thing to pursue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you need help, just ask.
Mm-hmm.
Just ask.
Just ask.
Ask Jeeves.
Remember that?
Yeah.
Remember Ask Jeeves? Dang. Throwing it back. If you need help, ask. We are starting up a Discord. You can find the link on our website if you want to head on over to talkdogswithus.com. We will have a link to the Discord probably under contact.
Talkdogswithus.com/Discord.
Stop on by and join the conversation.
Good night.
Talk Dogs With Us is an informational podcast and not a substitute for qualified medical advice.
Are you a pet professional or parent looking to learn more and challenge your current assumption about our pets? Then let's go on this journey together at our website, talkdogswithus.com. Give us a bark at Facebook and Instagram at Talk Dogs With Us. You can help keep the conversation going by subscribing to our Patreon, patreon.com/talkdogswithus, or buy us a coffee at ko-fi.com/talkdogswithus. Art direction by Alex Oren, theme song and audio engineering by Stephen Rossblock. Check out more from him at stephenrossblock.com. Thanks for listening.